The steering rack is the heart of your car's steering system, translating your wheel movements into precise front-wheel turns. When it wears out or gets damaged, handling can become unpredictable. This guide highlights the early symptoms of a failing steering rack in cars and light trucks, helping you address issues before they become dangerous. Symptom 1. Steering wheel play. Excessive play or looseness in the steering wheel is a classic sign of a worn-out steering rack. You might notice that when you turn the wheel a few degrees, the car does not respond immediately, indicating slack in the rack and pinion gears. This dead zone in your steering input is not normal and means the rack's precision has deteriorated. As a result, steering feels vague and unpredictable, forcing constant minor corrections. To test for this at home, have a helper gently rock the steering wheel left and right while you watch the front wheels. If the steering wheel moves significantly without the tires responding, there is too much free play, often a result of an aging rack or tie rod wear associated with it. Symptom 2. Harder stiff steering. A bad steering rack can also cause the steering to become unusually hard or stiff. If you suddenly need much more effort to turn the wheel, it indicates a loss of power assist. In a hydraulic power steering system, this can happen if the rack's internal valves or seals are failing, even when the pump and fluid level are fine. In vehicles with electric power steering, a failing rack-mounted motor or torque sensor can similarly make the wheel feel heavy. An internal rack issue might cause the wheel to be stiffer when turned one direction versus the other, due to uneven pressure or binding. As a quick DIY check, verify your power steering fluid is topped up and that the drive belt is intact. If everything under the hood is normal but steering remains labored, the rack itself is likely at fault. Symptom 3. Power steering fluid leak. For vehicles with hydraulic power steering, a leaking steering rack is a serious red flag. The rack has seals and internal lines that contain high-pressure fluid, and when they wear out, you may start seeing drops of oily fluid on your driveway or garage floor. Typically, this fluid is red or amber, and it will leak from the ends of the rack or from the steering gear housing. If the fluid level drops too low, you'll also experience harder steering due to loss of hydraulic pressure. If fluid keeps dropping, it will overwork the power steering pump, potentially causing failure. A quick DIY inspection is to slide a piece of cardboard under the front of the car after parking. If it collects fresh power steering fluid drips overnight, you likely have a rack leak. Additionally, shine a light on the rubber bellows at each end of the rack. If they're wet with fluid, that's a clear sign of internal seal failure. Symptom 4. Strange noises when turning. Unusual sounds while steering can also signal rack and pinion trouble. If you hear clunking, popping, or grinding noises every time you twist the steering wheel, it could mean the rack's internal gears or mounting bushings are worn out. For example, a knock or thud when changing direction often points to play in the rack or the tie rods connected to it. These sounds are more mechanical and pronounced than the typical power steering pump whine. As a diagnostic tip, listen for whether the noise comes through the steering wheel itself. A failing rack can transmit vibration and noise right into your hands. A useful DIY test is to have an assistant turn the wheel back and forth while you crouch near the front end. A clearly audible clunk aligned with each change of direction suggests the rack or its attachments are the source. Symptom 5. Vehicle wandering or pulling. If your car seems to drift on straight roads or pulls to one side, a worn steering rack might be to blame. A good rack and pinion should keep the wheels steady where you aim them. But when its components wear out, the steering can feel loose and the car may not track straight. You might find yourself constantly correcting the steering wheel to keep the vehicle in its lane. Worn rack mounting bushings can allow the rack to slide subtly, contributing to that wandering feeling. While wheel alignment or tire issues can also cause this behavior, if those factors are ruled out and the car still wanders, the rack could be failing to hold proper alignment under load. One DIY check is to safely lift the front end and tug the wheels left and right by hand. If you feel clunking or see the tie rods moving without immediate resistance, that slack can translate to wandering on the road. Symptom 6. Steering wheel vibration. Excessive vibration in the steering wheel, especially if it's not just at high speeds, can point to a problem in the steering rack assembly. Worn rack bushings or loose internal parts can let the rack vibrate or shift slightly during driving, translating into a tremor you feel in your hands. This can be noticeable when going over bumps or even on smooth highways if the rack isn't secure, and you might hear a subtle clunk as the assembly shifts. Of course, vibrations can also come from imbalanced wheels or bad tires. But if balancing and tire checks don't fix it, the steering rack might be the culprit. For a DIY test, jack up the front of the car and grasp each tire at the 3 and 9 o'clock positions. Try shaking it side to side. If you detect clicking or looseness inside, rather than at the outer suspension joints, it suggests play in the rack or inner tie rods that can cause those vibrations. Symptom 7. Steering wheel doesn't return to center. After completing a turn, your steering wheel should naturally begin to return towards center as the car straightens out. If you find that you have to manually bring the wheel back to center or it feels like it sticks in the turned position, the steering rack could be binding. Internal wear or damage inside the rack can create extra friction or hydraulic valve resistance, preventing the smooth, self-centering action you normally expect. This symptom is more apparent at low speeds or after making sharp turns. As a DIY test on an empty and safe stretch of road, make a gentle turn and then slightly loosen your grip on the wheel. It should drift back towards center on its own. If it stays put until you force it back, you likely have a binding steering rack.